Hello, everyone. Happy first Monday of Advent. And I can't think of a better way to start the Advent season than to all be together with a sense of community and to be able to read some
Read
of the
some of the
carols
carols
together.
together.
I'm going to start
I'm
by
going to start.
muting because I'm hearing some feedback.
Yeah.
Okay. Melanie and I were chatting last week about this upcoming carols, and she said, "So are we singing?" And I said, "Yes, Melanie, you're going to do a solo, and then we'll just go from screen to screen." But it's not as much singing of all of us caroling together, but reading Christmas carols, hearing the poetry in them, and then being able to discuss about these songs that we know so well, but maybe haven't stopped to consider the lyrics or don't know the story behind it. Um, I don't know if any of you were part of the December 2020 Faber sessions. That's when we were in lockdown, and so we were doing weekly classes online. And so for 3 weeks, we did the Christmas carols or carols of Advent and Christmas, and it was lovely. And I learned so many stories behind many of these carols that I did not know at all. And they are carols that I've sung and listened to since I was little. So I hope that maybe some of your favorites are among those discussed tonight. And maybe there's something that you hear and that you hold on to. And now, as we go through the Advent season, when you hear that song, you have maybe a new perspective on it. Thank you all for joining us. As mentioned, feel free to eat as you are here on the screen with us. It can be just like a nice Advent dinner conversation that we have. I've got my little plate of snacks here. And so please feel free to eat and enjoy your dinner as you're here. And it's just so nice to see your faces on the screen. So we love to be able to see you and feel like we're all in that community together. So for now, we will turn it over to Father Ganz. He'll get us started. And when there are times of discussion, he will let people jump in. Feel free to raise your hand and join in the conversation, or you can just unmute yourself and join in as well. And I'll be keeping an eye on the chat on the side as we go along through the evening. So welcome. So glad you're here.
Well, Mary, thank you. It's nice to see you all. I'm just so delighted. I see people coming in near and far. I even saw Claire Thompson, for heaven's sakes, a fabulous artist, lives in Austin, I believe. There she is. It's really nice to see you. It's been forever and ever. My gosh. Yeah, good to see you. Welcome here. And the Nisbets coming in from Arkansas, or perhaps a magical kingdom in the forest. Nice to see you guys again. They went with us on our trip to Oxford when we went in search of the Inklings. So great to see them. And Shelby coming in from her life in a hospital, and Dr. Bruce Bolton ready to put anyone to sleep who needs a surgery. So blessings on him. Richard Hook, our board chair. And then I also see Matt Ludwig, which means Tara and Matt. So we've kept Tara in mind as she has been actively recovering from surgery that removed both legs and both arms, and it's just going to be just fine. So anyway, we pray for Tara as she continues to do the hard work of PT. We all know what that's about if we've ever sustained any kind of injury. So all of you, nice to see you. The word Advent, which we use in a liturgical sense, is obviously connected to the word adventure. And I want to just clarify for a minute that technically adventure, it comes from a Latin root, a fourth conjugation verb, ad venio. And what it means is to come towards. And so what an adventure actually is what happens when you take a risk to leave your comfort zone and go out from yourself. An adventure only begins to happen when a surprising thing meets you out there. So an example is many people have gone on let's say they might go on the Camino and walk the pilgrimage. And they think that that's taking an adventure, but you can't take an adventure. Adventure is not, the very point of it is you are not in control, but you can't make it happen. You can get on the Camino and begin to walk. And then suddenly one day, something completely unexpected comes in and impacts your life, and you just have to deal with it. That is the beginning of the adventure. And an adventure tests every person who receives it. What will you do when the adventure finds you? Okay? I'd like to begin by having a prayerful contemplation of an image. I'm going to pop it up on the screen, and I'm going to ask you just to look at it, because to attune your senses to hearing, which is a great deal of what this is about, this evening's about, sometimes it can help attune another sense by bringing your full attention to bear on a sense other than that one. So I want you to look at an image that I'm going to pop up on the share screen, and I just want you to look at it. You see it there? A painting done around 1830. And what I mean by looking at it is, notice how your mind interacts with your eyeballs and how quickly your eyeballs try to get to the point of what you're looking at, this painting from the Metropolitan Museum of Art. It's amazing to watch your mind, how quickly it takes what the eye gives and narrows it down to a few, oh, I know what that is, or there's a lion, or there's another one, or there's a leopard. But the eyes see actually so much more. But our mind has edited that when that data stream comes in. So try to let your eyes rest and explore what you see. And you'll be surprised, if you stay with it, that something that was there the whole time, you hadn't even noticed it. As you can see, the painter put at the bottom Isaiah chapter 11. Justice shall be the band around his waist, and faithfulness a belt upon his hips. Then the wolf shall be a guest of the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the young goat. The calf and the young lion shall browse together, with a little child to guide them. The cow and the bear shall graze together, their young shall lie down. The lion shall eat hay like the ox. The baby will play by the viper's den, and the child lay his hand on the adder's lair. They shall not harm or destroy on all my holy mountain, for the earth shall be filled with knowledge of the Lord, as water covers the sea. Tell me what you notice. This particular artist, for almost 20 years, painted and repainted this same scene. So there are many editions of this same scene from the book of Isaiah. It clearly had a great impact on his life. And
Rick,
yes.
I was just going to give a comment, but I'll wait till you're finished.
No, go ahead.
Well, what kind of surprises me, or what I don't understand, I guess is a better way to put it, is there appears to be a chasm running through sort of the back left corner of the painting, and the two people are sitting on one side of it, and the whole rest of the scene is on the other. I don't understand based on the scripture that you read and that's quoted there, how that fits in. Who are those people?
See, isn't that helpful? It was there the whole time, and someone notices it and doesn't understand why it's there, but it's a very definite feature of the painting. Well, I think a possibility here is that this passage that I just read from Isaiah 11 is preceded by verses that talk about the birth and coming of the ideal king in the line of David. The Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, a spirit of wisdom and understanding, all of that. So what the text is really talking about is two kingdoms. A kingdom occupied only by humans, and what humans do, how they organize themselves, how they work, how they build their governments, how they imagine they're in control, whatever. There's the human world. On the other side is the animal world and the natural world. And unfortunately, often there is a chasm of misunderstanding that lies between those two kingdoms, which God made to be all the same. There has been a break that has run right through it, such that, and it's a solid biblical teaching, and it's something that Pope Francis has often referred to, is that the disorder in the human realm has a direct impact in the animal and natural world. And the world itself, the rest of that world, becomes sick as the human world is. So the healing in the human community, the natural world, the animals and the plants, are deeply connected in that. If the humans get their thing together, then the natural world, it will come together as it's supposed to. So thank you, Richard. You saw the tear through the middle of the world there. Anyone else? Well, I'll just point out one last thing as we just contemplate this Advent, one of the great Advent texts. Notice how it's a little one, not one of our adults and grown-ups, but it's a little one who has crossed the chasm and put himself or herself in the middle of the natural world, as if they get it. They understand the connection. So sometimes I think when I've been over to the house where there are little ones, the way they relate, the little ones relate to the dog in the house is remarkable. How different than the adults relate to the animal. There's something they're onto. There's a depth of connection they still feel. And there's something so telling about that little one as her arm is around the lion and see the left hand closing, like the children coming up to Aslan to want to put their hands in his beautiful mane and hold on. There's a connection there we're meant to see. Thank you all. I just wanted to have a chance to honor the Advent season by bringing us to a contemplation of one of the great texts of Advent as we enter into an exploration of Christmas carols. Now, I want to say something about what a carol is, because we don't refer to other hymns, sacred hymns, as carols. Carols are a very specific name that we give around the time of Advent and Christmas. We don't have Easter carols. We don't have ordinary time carols. So what is a carol? Well, its original meaning, going back to the early 14th century, is a carol was actually a circle dance where people would hold hands with each other and dance in a circle while singing. And so the primary element of a carol was the dance. And it was the fact that people felt connected, even physically connected, not just spiritually, but physically holding on to each other and dancing in a circle while singing. And a later association of this was joyfulness or jollity, because people can't be angry with each other when they're holding hands and dancing. It defeats ill will. There's something beautiful that can happen. Think of when people get alienated from each other and hatred is strong, that people can't physically push away. Get away from me. Don't touch me, is often the language that's used. I remember this dreadful advice given to my parents in Marriage Encounter, which was a movement of marriage development and also marriage healing and enriching that was in the Catholic tradition for a while. It might still be in play. I'm not sure. I haven't heard about it in a while. But one of the rules that they suggested for couples when they felt a fight coming on, and they always will, and the key is not that you don't fight, you don't want that. The key is that when you do fight, you fight fair. You know how to do it. So you don't hurt each other, you get to the truth of something and help each other, was the idea. But anyway, one of the rules was, when you feel that you have to have an argument, hold hands while doing it. What a rule. It's almost impossible when you're about ready to have an argument. Everything wants to push back. Get away from me. So, a Christmas carol is a summoning of us back into a circle where we hold on to each other and dance and sing. There's a beautiful image of what we've just looked at in the painting, which is called the peaceable kingdom, where the whole world is back in harmony with itself. The animal world and the plants and the human world, no more chasm, we're together in a dance. That's a Christmas carol. So implied in the name is the healing of the world and the longing we all feel in a season like this, and maybe even an American moment like this, that we can be healed of things that have clearly spun out of our pay grade to heal and just fix. Something amiss in the soul that only God can handle. So we get in a circle and we dance, metaphorically, or maybe actually do it. I don't know. I don't know where you do it. But anyway, so Christmas carol. I'd like to invite you into a contemplation of a group of shepherds who had a life, who understood that in their life, within the religious context of the country in which they lived in, so Israel, that they were absolutely excluded from any possibility of religious holiness. They were called the Am Haaretz, the people of the earth. And because they were not city dwellers, did you know the word pagan? We think it has to do with, devil worshiper, something like that. No, paganos, it simply meant you lived in the country. And Christianity in the early centuries became an urban phenomenon, an urban religion. And the people who lived out in the country didn't have access to the kind of teaching and understanding of communities as they talked about the gospel and the meaning of the Christian faith. They were the country dwellers, the paganos. The shepherds were of no account because they were dirty and unlearned. And they had the craziest religious ideas. Where did they ever come up with that? They're just so stupid. That's the tone of it. Okay? So they're doing their shepherding thing, and they have no idea what's coming at them. They have no idea, as they keep watch over their flocks by night, that they're about to experience something that has been on its way towards them from the very heart of God to the heart of this world. The first ones to learn about something that happened. Luke chapter 2. Now it happened that while they were there, the time came for her to have her child, and she gave birth to a son, her firstborn. She wrapped him in swaddling clothes and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the living space. In the countryside close by, there were shepherds out in the fields keeping guard over their sheep during the watches of the night. An angel of the Lord stood over them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them. They were terrified. But the angel said, "Do not be afraid. Look, I bring you news of great joy, a joy to be shared by the whole people." I want for you to go in your memory to a time when you know God came to you in some way, when you were touched by an experience of the holy that you never forget. There's nothing that feels like that, that leaves an effect like that. So, as you look through the story with your eyes, if you will, at the shepherds there on the hill among their flocks and then the angels standing, it's possible to follow your eyes to seeing what's there and not pay attention to, what happened inside of them when this happened. This was a stunning interior explosion of richness and beauty and wonder. You can't see it, you just have to know it because you've had analogous experiences. My gosh, I would have loved to have seen their faces. And especially as the angel left and rose into the sky, and suddenly it's just filled with the angels singing. Oh, the beauty, the majesty, the overwhelming, I don't have words, as they look at each other with tears in their eyes. What could we say? I'd like to suggest, if they had the art for it, I'd like to suggest that maybe this might be something, if they had had the capacity to say and turn into a song, would have sounded like this. This is a poem by James Agee, who wrote famously the novel A Death in the Family. He was most famous as an American movie critic. But in his earlier period, when he was at Yale, he won a prize for poetry. He was just a very talented guy. And he wrote a poem called Sure on This Shining Night. And what I'd like to do is have you look at it with me as a text, and then I want to have you listen with me as a composer, Samuel Barber, having read the poem, how he tried to capture the meaning of the poem and put it into musical form rather than words that James Agee, appealing to your ability to read words and understand them. He put them into a musical form. So I'm going to share the screen so that you can look at it with me. Sure on this shining night of star-made shadows round. Oh, very few city dwellers can even know what this is. You have to be so far out in the wilderness to get to a perfectly deep, dark sky with no ambient light anywhere, and to walk out onto an open field and it's lit by starlight so that you can see your shadow as you move on the field and other like a tree. There's enough light from the stars, literally light years away, but billions of them. You're walking by starlight. And this author, sure on this shining night of star-made shadows round, kindness must watch for me, this side of heaven, if you will, the ground. The late year lies down the north. All is healed, all is health. High summer holds the earth, hearts all whole. Beautiful. An image of winter where everything is, quote, dead or hidden away in its life. Summer where everything is out to be seen, fully bloomed, fully present. Both parts healed, whole. No disjunction between the two. It's a beautiful mystical vision he's having as he walks under starlight. Sure on the shiny night I weep for wonder. Like those shepherds, what else to do but weep with wonder? Wandering far alone of shadows on the stars. There's lament there. We, so outsized in our ego on this earth, cast shadows into the heavens rather than heaven that casts light upon us, is the image. Okay, what I'd like to do then, there's a meaning in the words, and you can just explore that yourself. And I want to now play you a Samuel Barber version of it. And then I'm going to ask you what you noticed. Okay, here we go.
Shining light of starry shadows round,
Any comments?
Out in the wilderness and the darkness, there's uncertainty, and this musical words of the poem talks about the sureness on this shining night. Spoke to me.
Yeah. Thank you, Tom. Anyone else? And Mary, you can pick up anything in texts if you see.
Yeah, Catherine Kelly up in Canada said, so much more powerful as a sung poem, multi-layered with different voices.
Beautifully said. Do you notice how words can only go far? I could read them to you with understanding. I could punctuate it or explain a word. But the music, there's so much more that can be conveyed. The powerful feeling. And as you heard the music with the voices moving, they were moving at different paces as if confused, and then they came back into harmony, and then they'd move off and there was dissonance, and you could feel the tension, and then it would come back into harmony. It was the healing of us and the distancing we put between ourselves, the tensions we have, that we can't get ourselves back to the harmony. But the song can show us how. And instead of the conflict we're experiencing and the tensions and the oppositional things, we experience it as ugly and we hate it and we hate people who cause it. I'm putting thoughts in your mind. It doesn't have to be that way for you, but we can go there. In this song, it incorporates the conflict musically, and it makes it beautiful. This is how God thinks. He is not afraid of our conflicts. We are. But he can take what we do and conflictually do and bring it into a beautiful harmony. I think that's part of the meaning of listening to a lyric in English and just understanding the words, and then the insight of a composer working in a different mode, conveying a meaning that we missed when we just read words. Any comment?
Well, it reminds me of the old poem that says, "For heights and lows no words can reach. Music is the soul's own speech."
Yeah.
And it's true with services too. You go to church services and you're powerfully impacted sometimes by the music in a way that words alone can't reach you. So
Yes.
it's good for us to reach out.
Nice. Yeah, nicely said, Bruce. And you being a musical guy too.
Sort of.
Rock guitarist, he and Mick Jagger were just like this at a time. No, but it's true that we often think, no, who's we? Maybe you don't think this way at all. But I think we often think that music accompanies the word. You have the words and then you have a musical accompaniment. But really often it's the music that carries the meaning and how it's built. And it helps us understand the words. It goes the other way, is what I'm trying to convey to you. And the significance of Christmas carols then. It's often the music that helps us understand the words. And it's why I think that when the great mystery of God becoming incarnate was announced, it was in song and the heavens filled with harmony, something like maybe what we just heard, so pure and so beautiful, incorporating all our conflict in this world. And God's surprise, saying, "Unto you a child is born, Wonder Counselor, Mighty God, Prince of Peace. Of his dominion there will be no end." What's not worth singing about something like that? My gosh, it must have been beautiful. Let me bounce along here. I'd like to stay with you on that hill where the shepherds were. And I want you to go with me in the 19th century with a Anglican divine, which means a holy man, usually a teacher. We probably call them doctors of divine knowledge, who became a bishop in Boston. His name was Philip Brooks. And he took a pilgrimage at one point later in his life. And he wanted to go, like people often do, after studying Jesus as in life so many years of their life. They finally would like to have a chance to actually go to the Holy Land and see for themselves. Just like the shepherds, they went to Bethlehem to see for themselves what had been told of them. They could have just trusted the angels. Like, come on, it's the angels telling you a child is born. But they needed to go see for themselves. How human is that? And how often we forget that in our leadership of others spiritually. People need to go see for themselves. So tell them how to get there. That's the great joy of any religious teaching. He goes to the Holy Land, and it's clear that he deliberately stayed up late past his bedtime in order to go out on a hill above Bethlehem. And he wanted to sit there like those shepherds, not having any clue what was coming other than more sheep and sheepy conversation with fellow shepherds. He wanted to wait there to see if something might happen. And what happened was a beautiful vision that came to him as he waited on that mountainside above Bethlehem, looking up into the star-filled sky. And he wrote a poem that became one of the great Christmas carols. And it is so deep and so beautiful that I'm pleased to read it to you first and have you watch with me the words. And then I'm going to ask you, as we finish reading it, what did you notice? What line stood out or what struck you? Okay? And that will help us all hear it better, receive it better. Bishop Philip Brooks. And this is what he wrote. O little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie. Watch for puns and good poetry. How still we see thee lie. He's describing a fallen people, like all of us. We get caught in lies. There's a pun. Above thy deep and dreamless sleep, the silent stars go by. Completely missing the majesty of the night. Yet, in thy dark streets shineth the everlasting light. Look, do you see? And here's a beautiful line. The hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight. Oh, I could live my whole life and wish I could write one line like that. For Christ is born of Mary and gathered all above, while mortals sleep. There we are. While mortals sleep, the angels keep their watch of wondering love. Oh my God, that's so beautiful. Their watch of wondering love. Not love that I know who you are. It's love that's constantly surprised and in wonder at what it sees in the other. O morning stars together proclaim the holy birth, and praises sing to God the King, and peace to men on earth. Now it moves inward. How silently the wondrous gift is given. So God imparts to human hearts the blessings of his heaven. Remember that? Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. No ear may hear his coming, but in this world of sin, where meek souls will receive him still, there's the pun again. Not just still as in they're still receiving him, but still in the sense they're quiet. Receive him still. The dear Christ enters in. And finally, O holy child of Bethlehem, descend to us, we pray. Cast out our sin and enter in. Be born in us today. We hear the Christmas angels, the great glad tidings tell, O come to us, abide with us, our Lord Emmanuel. That's good. Any comments? What do you notice?
Well, Rick, as you and many of the rest of you know, Penny and I live on the coast, and what we see every day becomes commonplace. When people come and visit us and see what we see every day, it's not commonplace. And so we're able then to vicariously recapture the joy and the beauty of that place. And you're reading this very familiar, kind of commonplace, almost a children's song, is very impactful. So
Thank you, Richard. It was a beautiful vision he received that night. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll just have a quick little thought, but you touched on it a little bit, but the hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight.
Yeah.
It's like it makes me tear up even just saying it out loud again, but I've always loved that line as I sing it or as I hear others sing it, but kind of haven't reflected on the there's such a small gap between like a hope and a fear, or for certain hopes and fears, the swing is just a very tiny little swing between something turning from a hope to a fear. And I just love that line. It's so I'm reflecting on that. I won't analyze it too much, but just like I feel like I'm just thinking about the Lord meeting us in that tiny little chasm that can shift something from one to the next, and being able to hold both the hope and the fear and tension together in a way that as a human, it's hard to couple those together. So.
Yeah. Thank you, Claire of Austin, bright and shining one. Just to say that and re-say it, you just said it multiple times, the same words. That's why in poetry lines repeat, because you hear it and then you hear it again. And when you hear it in someone else's voice and watch their face and hear the music in their voice, you hear it better. So thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, my reaction is why in our liturgy or rituals we don't sing the whole song? It seems like we only sing a couple of verses. My impression is when I've gone to Episcopal services, they tend to sing the whole song. And so I'm going to, when I hear it this Advent, I'll make sure I listen to the entire song, not just the first two verses.
I noticed the same thing, Peter. The Catholics prefer speed, or maybe we're just so much smarter than everyone else. We pick up the meaning quicker, but we always cut it short. And it's those darn Protestants and Anglicans are not Protestants. But anyway, all of the rest of them, they do all the verses. We just go, give us a break. But you see it here. All of this is the poem. All of it. He wanted all of it. There was not a single word or line that he wanted left out. It was the whole gift he was trying to give. So thank you for noticing that, Peter. I'd like to then, since you just said it, Peter, I'd like to have you now, we read the words. I want you to hear how a composer takes those words and tries to bring the meaning out. Okay? So I'll play it, and this is going to do what Peter was so shocked by. It will only sing a few of the verses, but that will serve us well because we'll get the idea since we read the whole thing, okay?
O little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie above thy deep and dreamless sleep. The silent stars go by, yet in thy dark street shineth the everlasting light. The hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight. How silently the wondrous gift is given. So God imparts to human hearts the blessings of His hand. Knowing His coming, but in this world of sin, when meek souls will receive Him, steadily Christ enters in.
That's beautiful. We're about at 7 o'clock and we take our break. So just before we do that, let me just make a couple of comments about what we've just read together in this hymn. Some beautiful things to notice. He's on the hill looking at Bethlehem, and what he sees when he looks down is what maybe you have moments where you see it. Kind of in my life, I sort of trained to notice these kinds of things. How we're so asleep. Sorrows put us to sleep. Fears put us to sleep. Calamities. What I mean by asleep is it causes us to draw in, to turn in, to build up walls to protect ourselves from so much coming in. It frightens us, hurts us, scares us, whatever. In that regard, it's putting us to sleep in the formidable inner powers to refuse that and to keep going outward, to try to connect, to understand others, not issues. The hell with issues. Not issues. To understand people. Issues will always throw us sideways and get us arguing. But people is the work of Christians. It's the work of people is people. And getting skilled with that. So he's looking down on a city that is in deep and dreamless sleep. Now remember, biblically, sleep is a primary way God communicates messages to human beings. Remember Joseph, an angel appears in a dream. Do not be afraid to take Mary as your wife. She is blessed beyond measure. It's a dream. So many dreams. Jacob wrestling with an angel while he sleeps at night. So if you have a people that's in a sleep that's dreamless, that's not good. It means they can't hear. The silent stars go by. In the ancient world, the stars were often considered gods. In the circumstances people are in, those darn gods can't say anything worth listening to. They won't help us. And you can think of all the kinds of dazzling bright things that the world throws at us. Say, well, try this or try this, maybe this. They won't get us what we long for. The stars are silent. And that's why that adverb, yet in the dark streets shineth the everlasting light, the one who made the stars. The hopes and fears of all the years are finally met in thee tonight. What a beautiful vision he was given that night on the hill, sitting with the shepherds. And then just another little comment about that at 3, how silently the wondrous gift is given. How much around Christmas is noise? Visual noise, audible noise, everything is noise. And yet the gift we seek, that is the hope of every human heart, not just certain kinds of human hearts, not just the right kind of human hearts, everyone. The gift is silently given. And so training ourselves in Advent in practices of stillness, where meek souls will receive him still. It's the courtesy of heaven to sneak up on us, not to compete, to say, I'm over here, listen, and boom louder. In courtesy, he's simply, yet there he is. And only a still heart of a meek soul will notice him. Let's stop there. Mary, back to you, and you can tell us what we must do.
Okay, it's 7:04. So we'll just take a quick break, maybe 6 minutes. Come back at 7:10. Feel free to get up and stretch, get another drink or something to eat, or stay and chat. And we'll come back. I'll cue everyone when to come back, and we'll keep going at 7:10. 7:11. So we will come back and continue on with a few more carols before we close up.
Okay, I'd like to move from the hill above Bethlehem, where we have Sure That Shining Night. We tried to enter into the inner experience of shepherds being overwhelmed by a beauty that not was only about the beauty of the night, but it reconciled the world. All that's dying and dead, that was the north, the frozen thing in the north, and the summer south, that was all in that stanza, where everything is full and growing and out in the open. And it combines in one stanza the unity of all possible experience, alive and dead. We tried to experience that through that poem, the inner life of the shepherd. And then we took the angle of what the shepherds looking from their perch into heaven and down into Jerusalem, and realized they will never be the same because of what happened on that hill. And how people who weren't there that night, you just weren't there, will never understand the glory of that night. Never. But you'll try to explain it to them. Now I'd like to take us into a Christmas carol by Christina Rossetti. Somewhere back in 1980, I think, the choral masters of the world, whoever they are, some great major organization, were asked to identify what they considered the greatest hymns of all, the greatest choral works. So it's hymns, but also in a choral setting. And the number one was this carol by Christina Rossetti. It is a masterpiece. So what I'd like to do is read it to you and have you react to anything that struck you, a word or a phrasing that you loved. You don't have to discourse on it. Just say, kind of like Claire did for us. She just loved that line. And it was hard to express, really couldn't, but you could tell in her voice and her face that it was still alive in her. That helps us all hear it. So feel free to do that. Okay, I'm going to share the screen so you can see what I'm looking at here. Another masterpiece. She called it A Christmas Carol. And she wrote it when a poem was requested of her to put in the Christmas edition of Scribner's Monthly, which was an American publication. And my goodness, did she ever write a poem. In the bleak midwinter, frosty wind made moan, earth stood hard as iron, water like a stone. Snow had fallen, snow on snow, snow on snow. In the bleak midwinter, long ago. My gosh, that's lovely poetry. Our God, heaven cannot hold him. Why? Because love goes out of itself. It leaves, does not grab equality with God, something to be grasped, empties itself. It loves to enter into otherness. And when it's God, he actually creates otherness, like the universe that the Hubble Space Telescope and others are still exploring. The majesty and the glory of heaven, a love that cannot be held as in a gated neighborhood. And you might get there if you get to heaven. No, it pours forth into the universe. It's all around us. That's why visions of heaven, the geometry is so important. A lot of us, the way we've been taught, and it's wrong, the way we've been taught is we're down here, heaven's up there. And you hear language like there's this great chasm between the two. It comes up in a gospel parable about Dives and Lazarus. But there are imagery like that, that there's a wall that you have to just be really darn good in order to pierce and, knock on that door. Well, there's always a door there and someone's watching the door. So it's like a castle. So it has a keep and a moat, and you got to find a way to get across it and get into heaven. It's wrong. Heaven is all around us. So instead of heaven being, we're here and it's up there like two tiers, it's probably more accurate to say that heaven, here we are in our little circular globe, utterly surrounded and penetrated by the divine majesty who holds all of it. The primary issue of our faith is not finding the key to break into heaven and get there and have the joy of noticing and kind of being happy that others didn't get there, because it makes you feel better about having gotten in. It's about heaven has penetrated us, flooded into our reality. It's part of the beauty of God. But doing so, how silently the wondrous gift is given. It's filled with courtesy. Doesn't make its voice shouting in the street. It simply arrives in beauty, like a breeze soft through the window and so fragrant. Our God, heaven cannot hold him, nor earth sustain. Heaven and earth shall flee away when he comes to reign. In other words, no distinction. It's all unified. No chasm, no moat, no bridge to cross. All in all. In the bleak midwinter, a stable place sufficed. The Lord God Almighty, Jesus Christ. Darn, she's good. Enough for him whom cherubim worship night and day, a breast full of milk and a manger full of hay. Enough for him whom angels fall down before, the ox and ass and camel, which adore. My gosh, that's brilliant. This incredible mystical vision of cherubim around the throne of God. And then she shifts with such a jolt into a breast full of milk. And you see the little baby attached there and sucking hard. It's so concrete and so us, how we stay alive. And a manger full of hay, and you just see those jaws chewing. Angels and archangels may have gathered there, cherubim and seraphim thronged the air. But only his mother, in her maiden bliss, worshipped the beloved with a kiss. Angels can't kiss. Mothers can. What a privilege. What can I give him, poor as I am? If I were a shepherd, I would bring a lamb. If I were a wise man, I would do my part. Yet, what I can, I give him. Give my heart. Any comment?
Katie, go ahead.
Well, I kind of wish you would have left it on sharing the screen so I could see the words again.
I can go right back there.
Okay,
There we go.
but one of the things that just really struck me was about the angels who fall down before him, but the mother who can feed him and touch him and give him a kiss. It kind of brought to mind, I mean, it's just sort of one of those, yeah, God became a little baby, a human that we could touch, that a mother could kiss, a tiny child.
Yeah.
For us.
Yeah. Full of love, fresh from God.
Yeah. But he whom angels adore is a little child. I don't know, that kind of got to me.
Yeah. See, that's it, Katie. You showed us the effect. That's a stunning stanza because you get a sense of like when you, not like bats in a cave, that seems like more of a scary image, or quail when you're walking and you scare them out of the bush. They go, there's this image of coming upon the angel, and they all, angels and archangels with these magnificent wings rising on the air. Something so overwhelmingly majestic, like the shepherds saw, singing in the heavens. Glory to God in the highest, peace on earth to men of good will. And then a mother and a child, a whole world of love and connection, and a kiss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you, Katie. Anyone else?
Yeah, I guess it's wonderful to lift up these beautiful verses and these beautiful words in this way, because you get a sense of awe throughout them all. And I think what happens in church or just through the Advent Christmas season, the familiarity has folks just sort of singing the words.
Yes.
And you feel a need to be able to say, you've got to look and listen to these words and to really sort of inwardly digest what they are really saying, and how filled with awe they all are, all each in their own way, from the very first that we heard today, the harmony.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautifully said. Thank you. Beautifully said. I wonder if I might just take you for a few minutes into a few of the lines just to enrich us. And then we'll call it good because we're almost done here. And we always respect that boundary. If you could just go with me into that opening stanza when it describes a bleak midwinter. It's a very interesting thing that she starts by describing a landscape. It looks like a New England landscape in the dead of winter, a bleak midwinter. So it seems interesting that she would start with a landscape, but it lets us know, we quickly understand that, as we saw earlier in that painting of the natural world and the human world, that a bleak landscape, there will be a connection to a bleakness in the human heart. And what she's describing in a landscape is really what she's describing, what she sees in the human community around her. In a bleak midwinter, frosty wind made moan. Think of people that you've known. It's an unpleasant and difficult thing, and maybe you've been a person like that at times. You just say they're just cold. We even say a cold stone killer. cold we associate with lack, some sort of deadness of heart. Frosty wind may moan, almost the sound of a voice coming from a frozen heart. Earth stood hard as iron. Water like a stone. We're 80% water or whatever we are. We flow. We're meant to flow. And when the very thing that makes us alive and makes the world alive becomes like stone, she's telling us something she sees, a longing she has that God will be a match for that in the gift he will give. Snow had fallen, snow on snow, snow on snow, in a bleak midwinter long ago. Now, one thing about long ago, she doesn't mean like back in the day. She's describing now. But what she means by putting that time element in is to capture the psychological effect of misery. Talk to a depressed person. Talk to a miserable person. Talk to a person laid down with suffering and sorrows. And you will find a person who can find that days go on and on and on. It's just like the time will never pass. Find someone in joy, beloved and loving, set free in friendship. And my God, it just, the time flies. It just goes so fast. So she's capturing a psychological effect of hardness and obstinacy in the earth itself, in people, and saying and being honest to God, here's the world. We need you to help us here. Are you a match for this? Can you penetrate something so obstinate? Huh. Well, yes, actually. Our God, heaven can't hold him, nor earth sustain. He's too much for us. Heaven and earth shall flee away when he comes to reign. Just effortless bringing all together in his own time and according to his own artistic understanding of courtesy and the way humans learn what we learn and need often to be broken of our idols, to be made open to something much greater and better. If we're just given what we need, we often just don't appreciate it or understand what we've been given. So God lets us struggle and break and cry out so that when the gift is given with courtesy and skill, we'll actually understand what it is and rejoice in the gift of it. I've already talked about the other verse, but the last one, so incredibly beautiful. What can I give him? Poor as I am. If we all just memorize that last stanza and said it each day during Advent, my goodness, what a good prayer that would be. I don't know what I can give. Give him your heart. "7:31," which puts us right at our time. So I won't play the music. You'll have to go seek it out yourself. As we
Please play.
Oh, I'm feeling tempted.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Please.
Put us to bed.
Okay. I won't play the whole thing, but enough to kind of spring us there.
In the bleak midwinter, icy wind made moan. Earth stood hard as iron, water like a stone. Snow on snow had fallen, snow on snow on snow. In the bleak midwinter, long and long ago. Angels and archangels may have gathered there, cherubim and seraphim rising in the air. Oh, but only Mary in her maiden bliss worship the beloved with a mother's kiss. Heaven cannot hold him, nor can earth sustain. Heaven and earth shall fall away when he comes to reign. What then can I give him, empty as I am? If I were a shepherd, I would bring a lamb. If I were a wise man, I would know my heart. What then can I give him? I must give my heart.
Gracious Lord, thank you for this beautiful night that we could share. Send us an extra portion of your Holy Spirit to help us break free and become more open to your approach, the great adventure, the greatest one of all, from your heart to ours, for the transformation of the world. Amen. Back to you, Mary.
Thank you, Father Ganz, and thank you all for joining and for entering into the Advent season with us, even though, as we noted, we're from all over the country and even other parts outside of the United States. So how wonderful to get to join and listen and reflect together. As always, we record these classes, and so I will be posting that on our website and our podcast. If there's anything that you wanted to revisit, as well as I'll send a follow-up email tomorrow with some additional resources that Father Ganz might want to share. So obviously this Faber Sessions was a bit of a break in our normal, or our ongoing series of Narnia. So next month in January, we will start back into Narnia and continue on January through May, finishing up the Narnia series. If you're local, or even we do have an online option for next week, our night school class, which will be the last offering of this calendar year as we're preparing for the Christmas season. And then again, we'll continue on in January. So I'll send out details about that as well. And the last thing, as you all know, and many of you support, the Faber Institute is 100% possible because of donations of individuals and friends, and those who believe in our work. So many of you are ongoing donors, and we're so grateful. And we do invite any others, especially this time of year as we're preparing for another year of our work. If you were able, we would appreciate any donations you're able to give. You can do that online, or I'll send more information in the email tomorrow. But thanks again for being here. So wonderful to see you all, and feel free to unmute and say goodbye as you leave. Have a wonderful rest of your Advent season. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. So glad you came. Especially those, Tom and Luann, in a far time zone. Thank you for staying up late. It was good to see you guys. Happy Advent.
Thank you, Rick.
Hey.